What's good, y'all? It's your boy BioSpider 3.0, keeping the action going with the full review of the custom Quantum Ranger from Power Rangers Time Force, Lightning Collection style. Alright, and this is another custom by Power Rangers fan underscore 12, so I just want to give a huge shout out to him before we get into the review. Thank you so much, brother, for hooking me up with this figure. This guy, he came, a little late, but it was all good. I ordered this guy back in I want to say March of last year, so 2025, and he didn't come to me until the end of February this year. So I've had him for about maybe 4 months. So yeah, I was getting a little worried. So I messaged my guy, I reached out to him just to see what was going on with the order, if it was still coming or not. And I guess he's overseas somewhere. I forget exactly where, but I guess they had a storm where he's at, a really bad storm. And at one point he got sick, and I felt really bad. I was like, my bad, bro. I'm not trying to pressure or anything. I hope you feel better, ASAP. But yeah, it sounds like my guy's doing a lot better, and he was able to get the figure out to me, after talking to him for a bit. So just want to say again, thank you so much, brother. Really appreciate you for getting this Ranger out to me. I was super excited to review it, and again, I'm glad you're feeling a lot better. So that's really unfortunate that he fell ill, and at the same time he had a major storm in his country. So I felt really bad. So but I'm glad to see that he's doing a lot better now. But yeah, all of that out of the way, we got our guy here. I got him on the rotating display base. I figured we'd just start the review with him already on there. Might as well, right? So you can still get a full body view of him. Here he is in a kind of vanilla pose. I got him holding the Quantum Defender in this hand, and he has his the blade version of it sitting right there in the back. So we'll go ahead and get him rotating and get a nice 360 look at him before we take a closer look. All right, let's get into it. Oh yeah, and real quick, I just want to mention, guys, as far as the whole big life changes or whatever that I was mentioning in the other videos, why I've been so busy, your boy has had the blessing of moving into a new place recently. So if you notice the background looking any different, that's why. So this will be our new background for figure reviews. But yeah, hopefully you guys like it. But yeah, this is gonna be the new backdrop for the reviews, because I am in a new room now. So thank God I've had the privilege of moving into a new place, and I really like it a lot. So I'm very, very excited to get more figure reviews in for you guys, and hopefully the lighting looks pretty good. I'm shooting this around close to 10 a.m. And I do have a really nice window in my room that lets in a lot of natural light. Even though the sun isn't the brightest right now, I feel like there's a little bit of cloud cover, so hopefully you guys are able to see the details on this guy well enough. But I figured I'd shoot it earlier in the day. I waited a little too late yesterday to shoot his review, and the lighting just wasn't quite right. There was too much shadow on him, so I figured I'd just wait until today. So but yeah, here we are, and now you've got your nice 360 look at him. Hopefully you guys can see just how amazing all the details are on him, on both him and his weapons. Looking really, really good. So we'll get him coming around maybe one more time here, and then we'll take him off and take a closer look. Alright, so one more time. See if we can get him dead center. Not quite. A little to the side, but not bad. Alright, so let's take him off and bringing him in for a closer look. Alright, so let me back up the camera just a bit here. Alright, so here we have him, Mr. Eric Myers, the Time Force Quantum Ranger. And I love this suit, man. I'm such a huge fan of this suit. This is definitely one of my favorite 6 Ranger designs. Really, really love it. It's obviously a nice play on Wes's suit, right? The real Red Ranger of the team. I just like how it's basically just an edgier version of Wes's suit. So you still have the kind of triangle shape for the chest and whatnot, but now it's more in a kind of, it's surrounded by more of a thunderbolt type of shape, and you have that nice black and white, that contrasts very, very nicely, and they stand out against each other. It just makes his suit have a little bit of extra flair, which I really like. Same thing with his helmet, very similar to Wes, but you have more of a jagged edge kind of design, which is really, really dope. I just love how edgy and badass it looks. Always been a fan of this suit. All of the Time Force suits, really, I love the Time Force designs overall. I like something about arrows, you know, it just gives like a futuristic look, which is dope. So, but yeah, I always like the Time Force suits, and yeah, he looks really good overall. Bring him in, take a look at these details. You can see his morpher is very, very nicely detailed. My guy had to, I'm sure, like sculpt and, you know, probably like 3D print and sculpt this himself, as well as paint, because, you know, obviously Hasbro never did a Quantum Ranger, so this is like all new sculpt and design, and it came out looking absolutely beautiful. You can even see like the buttons on his Quantum Morpher there, looking really, really nice. Got the white for the buttons, and a nice overall shape for the Morpher. Very, very nicely sculpted and painted. Beautiful details, man. You got nice silver paint surrounding the gauntlet there. Really, really nice silver metallic paint for the gauntlets. I love it. Looks really, really good on both sides. Love that. And let's see. And yeah, just taking a closer look at the chest logo here. It looks really, really nice. Again, that white and black paint is very, very nice, very clean and sharp. There's like a little bit of fuzziness on this side. You can see like right there, like where the white kind of meets the black, just a little bit of fuzziness, but not bad. Not bad at all. Still looks really good overall. And yeah, this is one of those helmets that has Ranger mouth, so I know some people aren't the biggest fan of that. It really just depends on the design. I think sometimes it works, sometimes it just looks kind of goofy. In the case of Time Force, I think it actually does work. I think it actually gives them kind of like a weird, mysterious aesthetic, which I think fits with just like their whole futuristic design. So I think it works. But yeah, and then just looking at the side of the helmet, we'll bring that in close. Very, very nicely painted. I love the red that he used for the helmet, and you've got that nice like little circle design, which is very you know, traditional for all these Time Force helmets. I think I got like a little bit of a paint scuff right there, that little white dot. I tried scratching it off, but it wouldn't come off, so I think it's a little bit of paint scuff. Not bad though. And taking a look at the other side, basically the same thing, right? And coming around to the back, we have this really nice, you know, silver leading up, you know, all the way down, up and over the middle of his helmet, which looks really good. These nice silver stripes that kind of wrap around all the way to the front. We've got the black up there. I love how, you know, the red and the black meet kind of like in the center of this helmet from the side. I think that looks really cool. But yeah, a lot of nice coloration going on here. And taking a look at his lower half. Really love the details on the belt. I love how he sculpted and painted the belt. So we got, you know, black for the main part of the belt, and then the buckle itself is in a nice metallic silver, and we have some gold in there in the middle. Nice shiny gold. Looks really, really good. Show accurate. And of course, you know, we have, I'm not exactly sure which body he used for this. I wanted to say it was, you know, Wes's, right? Because that would make the most sense. But this one, this body type feels a little bit thicker to me than the body that they used for Wes, because I do know that in the Lightning collection for Wes's figure, for some reason, I think they made his body like a little bit slimmer. I remember watching a lot of reviews, and they were saying how like the torso, especially like the lower torso around the waist, is a little bit thinner than most of the other male bodies that they use for some reason. So yeah, and looking at this, he looks to be around like the same, I want to say like build as the Wild Force Red, who I forgot to grab. I'm gonna have to grab him at the end for size comparisons. Hopefully I can find him in time. But yeah, yeah. So this, it's a little bit thicker, like as far as like the waist area. So I'm not sure. I'm thinking maybe he might have used just one of the other like regular male bodies to do this guy, which I think works. You know, because you know, Eric definitely isn't like the slimmest guy. He's got some muscle on him, so I think this physique works really well. I'm actually kind of glad that he didn't use the slimmer body type that they used for Wes. But yeah, and then taking a look at him from the back of his suit, it looks really, really nice. He has a really nice kind of like glossy, like semi-gloss finish on this, very similar to the Wild Force Red custom Ranger that he did, and I really, really like it. You can see it a lot on like the arms and the legs. Hopefully you guys are seeing that on camera. It seems like he kind of didn't do it as much like on his back and whatnot. But it's not like a bad look. It's not too distracting, but I think it would have looked a little better if he had kept it consistent and kind of gave a little bit more of a gloss to like his back area. But at least on the you know, the sleeves and the pants of the suit, you know, it is a nice shiny look. The boots also look very good. You got silver metallic paint for the boot cups at the top there, surrounded by the black, or you know, encased by the black. The black is encased by the silver, is what I'm trying to say. Going all the way around, nice boot cups. It seems like the red is a little bit darker for his boots. The red seems a bit darker than the rest of the suit, so that's something that I noticed. There are definitely a little bit different shades of red throughout his suit. But overall, you know, it looks nice. It's not too distracting. You know, the shades of red don't differ too much, so that's a good thing. And then, yeah, his gloves look very nice. He doesn't come with any alternate hands, so, you know, that's something that these custom rangers from Power Rangers fan _12, he usually just gives you like 2 basic hands, but I mean, they tend to work for pretty much everything that you need. So like weapons hands. It would have been nice, you know, to have like some extra posing hands to switch them out with, but if anything, you know, you could always just use, if you have like another red ranger, you could probably just swap them out, and hopefully like the reds will match well enough. If not, you could probably just repaint it. Shouldn't be too hard. But yeah, here is the Quantum Defender up close. Look at those details, man. Beautiful. The nice silver paint, the yellow in there for the eye of the Q-Rex. You got some nice red paint going at the bottom there by the jaw. Black up top. The sculpt on this, you know, Quantum Defender is absolutely immaculate. Beautiful, beautiful stuff, man. Very show accurate. I love the way it came out. So yeah, there he is. And then we'll take a closer look at his Defender in Blade mode. Alright, so here we have the Defender in a Blade mode, which is very, very nice. Love the details. He didn't skimp out on any of the details, just like the, you know, Blaster mode. So again, we got that nice paint for the eye, some yellow paint in there, got a little bit of a red kind of square trapezoid piece right here, some red for the bottom by the jaw, and then nice silver going up here for like the extension where the, just before where the blade comes out. Got some nice black surrounding it, and then of course some nice kind of metallic looking silver, not super shiny, but definitely like metallic looking for the blade itself, and it looks really nice. Great sculpt on it, nice and pointy, really, really good. And for the handle, of course, just like a basic black color, but it is very nice. And the handle itself is made of a nice hard plastic too. It doesn't feel cheap like the Hasbro plastic that, you know, easily warps and whatnot. It's a nice hard plastic, so that's good. And yeah, he's able to hold it pretty nicely. I'll show you that in a little bit, but he's able to hold it very well. And yeah, just an overall very, very nice looking piece. So let's go ahead and get into play and display. All right, so for now I'm gonna take his blaster out of his hands, and the trigger hand that he does have, it is a bit of a tight fit. It's one of those hands that Hasbro made that's like where the fingers are a pretty hard plastic. So, you know, you just want to be a little bit careful if you pick this guy up. Just want to be careful to kind of be gentle when you're sliding out the Quantum Defender, because when I did put it in his hands for the first time yesterday, I actually did get a little bit of a paint scuff right here on the handle. Hopefully you guys can see that. Like right there's like a little bit of black paint that kind of came off. At first it just looked like something got stuck on his gun, and I was able to kind of scrape it off, but then underneath that I still got this kind of like white spot, so I'll probably go back and cover that up with a little bit of black paint later. But yeah, but you can just see, like, look at the sculpt. Like, you can even see like the kind of gripping texture around the handle there. It's so nicely done. I mean, the sculpt and detail on this is absolutely amazing, man. What an amazing piece. But yeah, that's just something to mention real quick. All right, yeah, let's get back to our guy here. All right, so for some play and display action, all right, starting with the head, he is able to look up very nicely. All right, so he is on like the hinge. When you first lift his head up, it can definitely make his neck look like extra long, but you can kind of like adjust that, kind of just push the helmet down a little bit more and it doesn't look so bad. See, just kind of adjusted that, and that makes his neck look a lot more normal. But yeah, he's able to look up very far, which is nice, and he can look down pretty nicely as well, about that far down comfortably, right? Almost tuck his chin, so that looks very nice. Comes back up to center, and of course he's able to get rotation. All right, so very, very nice rotation. You can get a full 360 in there. And his helmet has like a nice grip on the ball peg, but it's not too tight, so you know, turning his head is pretty easy, and it's got just enough like looseness to it to where it's able to easily turn, but it doesn't feel too loose, like it's not going to wobble all over the place or anything. So that's dope. Really, really like that. And yeah, he gets a little bit of side tilt, just a little bit of nuanced posing side to side, so that's good. That's really nice. For the arms, we're able to come up to basically a T pose. Let's see if I can get his arm up any further. You know, his arm's going to be a little bit hindered just because of the sculpt of the shoulders. The top of the, you know, his delts do kind of run into like the trap area early on, or the clavicle. So he's able to get, you know, almost perfectly out to the side, almost like a T pose, maybe just shy of it, but again, not bad. Overall, that's pretty good range. And obviously back down to his side. And it does look a lot more natural than a lot of the Lightning Collection figures where their arms stick out awkwardly to the side. His are able to come in a little bit closer to his body, which looks nice. And you can always kind of like turn the bicep in to make it look a little bit better. He does also have the butterfly joint, which you can kind of like bring forward, bring his shoulders forward a little bit, and that might help his overall stature. But yeah, and so you're able to rotate 360 on the arm, full windmill 360 with the arm there. Very, very nice. And again, the butterfly joint is there. He did continue the paint for the symbol, so it does go into here, only up to a certain, you know, extent though. So like right here, like after this point, it does basically get broken, that white part, and it just goes back to the black. But I mean, that's not bad. Still looks pretty nice. And you can extend his arms really far back, which is nice. The butterfly joint works very, very nice in this guy. So you can definitely get him doing some behind the back, you know, action poses, which is really, really dope, especially if he's like in midair or something. That's going to look absolutely fantastic. All right. So you got a really nice butterfly joint for both sides. And let's see. And again, yes, he does have the bicep swivel. Scoot up a little bit here. He's got a nice bicep swivel built in. Okay. Nice bicep rotation in there. He has double jointed elbows, which allow him to get a really nice bend. Definitely better than 90 degrees. So that looks pretty solid to me. I like that a whole lot. And for the hands, you know, he does have rotation, standard Lightning Collection. So it's on like a peg, not a ball peg, but just like a straight peg. But it is able to rotate 360. Let's see. Feels like maybe a horizontal joint. Doesn't move that much in either direction, honestly, horizontally or vertically, but does have like a little bit of wiggle room in there, at least on this side. Let's check about this hand. Yeah, you got rotation, and this being a trigger finger, yeah, it can go like slightly up, slightly down, slightly left to right, but not a whole lot, which is to be expected for a Lightning Collection figure. And for the torso, he has the upper diaphragm joint, so he is able to rotate from the top like that, get a little bit of leaning to each side, just a little bit. All right. He does have an ab crunch joint. Now, I want to say be careful with his ab crunch, because when I first crunched him yesterday, or when I leaned him back rather, he did get a little bit of paint scuffing, which maybe you guys can see it. I don't know how well you're going to see it on camera, but he does have like a little bit of, you know, paint wear right where the torso meets the belt. There's a little bit of like white there now because some of the paint scraped off when I tried to lean him back. So moving him forward, he's able to crunch forward pretty nice. And you're gonna hear like a click in there in the ab crunch. So he's able to bend forward about that much using that ab crunch joint. And then again, when you're bending back, you want to be pretty careful, but go kind of slow. But yeah, you can straighten him out. And yeah, I'm like a little scared to lean him back just because of what happened yesterday. But if you want to lean him back, he can go back about that far. You'll hear another click as he goes pretty much all the way back to his limit. And yeah, you can see right there, now you can really see it, some of the paint wear that happens. So he's got like a white scuff right there and a little bit of black on the sides from like the belt and at the bottom. So I'll probably go back and touch that up with some red paint at some point. But yeah, not bad, not bad. Let's bring it back to a neutral position. All right, click him back. And for the legs, he's able to kick about that high, basically a 90 degrees. So that's pretty nice, decent range there. Going backwards, as you would expect, not much because, you know, Lightning Collection design. It's gonna run into the butt pretty quickly, so it only goes back about that far. He does have a, about to say bicep, thigh swivel. He's got a nice thigh swivel in there, thigh swivel cut. He's got double jointed knees, so he's able to bend his leg. If you use both, you know, both of the double joints, he's able to bend his leg back pretty far, basically up to his lower back, even though he's not like kicking or touching it, but he's able to get at least up to that height, which is pretty nice. And bringing it back down. One thing I want to mention before I forget is that his legs did seem a little bit loose out of the package. They are like a little bit wobbly. So, you know, if you do the shake test, he is, at least on my copy, he's a little bit wobbly. I think that's, I don't know if my guy had to like do some engineering or whatever, or like some extra stuff to, you know, when he was like working on the legs, but that's just something to mention. Dang, did I just scratch off more paint? Where did this white come from? Dang, I think I low-key just scratched off some paint on him just below his belt. Dang, yeah, I'm gonna have to do some touch-ups on this guy for sure, because I think I just did that by accident with the belt. So this entire belt buckle actually came off yesterday when I was like playing around with his torso. I had to super glue it back on, so that was a little unfortunate, but I was able to super glue it back onto there. But now it looks like I've got a little bit of paint scuff just beneath there, so probably have to touch that up with some red now. And the same thing also happened with his holster. I don't know what my guy used to glue it on, but yeah, this holster actually came off like kind of easily from the side of his belt. And it seems like he glued it at 2 points, because I think it's glued like at the side. Move his arm out the way. It's glued at the top here to his belt, and then I think it was also glued like just below that, like to the side of his waist right here. I only super glued it back at the top, like up here by the belt, so you know, yeah, there is that. I would say when you put his Quantum Defender in his holster, don't push it down too far. Don't make it like super tight, because when you try to pull it out, you know, you might loosen the bond between the holster and the belt, and then you might also scratch paint off the Quantum Defender. So you want to be very careful. Just slip it in there to like where it feels like it fits, and then just kind of leave it at that. You don't need it to be super tight in this holster. But the holster itself is really nice. This kind of like paint scuff at the top, like a little bit of black. I don't know if you guys can see that. A little bit of black missing at the top of the holster there. That's not because of him. As far as I know, when I first got it out the package, it was like perfectly painted. It had like the silver paint all the way there. And I think when when it came off or whatever, and I was like trying to put it back, I think I accidentally scuffed some of that paint. So I'll touch that up later. But yeah, few imperfections with this guy, and some of those things were my fault. So just figured I'd mention that. This is a review, so I got to be honest. All right, but so yeah, we saw forward and back for the legs. So coming out to the side, he's able to get pretty far, at least on this side. Let's see about this side. I'm a little bit scared. I don't want to mess up any more paint on this guy, but let's see. Now that I've got the holster, I'm not going to move it all the way, but at least on this side, but he's able to get pretty close to like a full splits. I'm pretty sure if I were to push more, I could get him to do just about a full splits on the other side, but I don't want to mess up the holster again. But yeah, he's definitely got that range, so that's nice to see. And yeah, that's pretty much it for his articulation. He does kind of have like the drop down action for his hips. Does drop down a little bit, just a bit, so you can push that back up, extend his legs a little bit if you need to. And then as far as like the feet, he doesn't have any boot rotation or anything like that, but he does have the standard hinge in his feet, so he can hinge all the way down to the tippy toes. He can hinge all the way, or not all the way, he can hinge up about that much for the foot, which, you know, isn't bad. Pretty basic range, but not bad. And then he does have a ankle swivel or pivot in there. No rotation though side to side, but it does at least swivel at the ankle. And yeah, that's just about it for his articulation play and display. So, you know, overall a nice batch of articulation, very standard to a Lightning collection. We've seen plenty of, you know, Lightning collection figures at this point. We pretty much know what to expect when it comes to articulation, so this guy is no exception to that. But yeah, his overall range is very good, does work very nicely, and yeah, just overall his overall presence just looks great, man. He's gonna look so rocking awesome on a shelf, man. I can't wait to pose him up. Matter of fact, yeah, I'll show you guys real quick before we get into the size review, size comparisons. Show you guys. You guys saw him with the blaster. I guess I'll show you real quick how he looks with the sword version of the Quantum Defender. Okay. So there he is with the sword. I'll just try to do like a nice, simple, but cool pose real quick. Let's see. Try to get him into a nice dynamic action pose. Just something simple, nothing too crazy. See if he can balance with this pose. Okay, there we go. And there he is with the sword version of the Quantum Defender. Let's move this back a little bit. Nice little easy pose there. All right, just so you can see that. So yeah, that's how he looks. I gotta say, he looks really awesome. I'd pose him up more if we had more time, but I need to do size comparisons, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention real quick before we get into size comparisons. I got this extra head. This is a Eric Myers custom head for a Lightning collection figure. I got this off of Etsy. This is from someone called RangersForge on Etsy, so I'll have the link to their shop in the description below. But yeah, I am going to you know, eventually put this head on him. I need some sticky tack just because the hole that he hollowed out for the head is definitely too big to fit onto the figure. I already like put it on and it just kind of makes him look like he has no neck. But the detail in this is super nice. Like the paintwork for the skin, the eyes, the mouth, the hair, everything is really on point. Definitely a great likeness to Daniel Southworth, who plays Eric Myers. Really nice head sculpt. Just like you could see a little bit of the flesh tone kind of going like around the edge there of the hair. But so you probably could have put a little bit more paint for the hair right there. But overall, this looks really good. I mean, look at the detail. Like for all the strands of hair, this looks exceptional, man. So I knew I had to pick this up. Again, I got this off of Etsy. I'll put the link for his shop in the description. But yeah, this is a really nice Eric Myers head that I'm going to put on the figure once I get some sticky tack to kind of fill out that hole a little bit better. But yeah, let's get into some size comparisons before we run out of time. So here we go, Mr. Quantum Ranger. Dope figure. Very happy to have it in the collection now, because you know the goal is definitely to get a Forever Red in both 12 scale and 6 scale for me at least. So here he is, and let's get him next to some fellow peeps. So for some Toy Biz Marvel Legends figures, we got the Sentinel Build-A-Figure with Cyclops, and we'll bring in the Sinister Six box set Green Goblin. You can see he scales pretty nicely with those two. Nice height difference between those, Green Goblin being the tallest, so looks pretty good. For a Mafex comparison, we've got the DLX Amazing Spider-Man 2 Andrew Garfield Spider-Man and the Mark 50 Iron Man from Infinity War. And yeah, those guys scale pretty well with him. That looks pretty good to me. Like that. Alright, and moving it on right along. Here we have the Bandai Thunder Rangers from the Ninja Flash line. So there those guys are. They're a little bit smaller in scale for sure. Eric's definitely a bit taller than these. These are about like 5.5 inch. So there you go. Let's see him with a Ranger villain. We got Zeltrax from around that same 5.5 inch line. Definitely a little bit smaller. And for a Black Series, here is a Phase 1 Clone Trooper. Alright, looking pretty good. And we'll bring in a Marvel Legends Wasp to keep the quantum action going for a little bit. Alright, so I think that's going to